Garry's mod DarkRP. Many have fought, few have yet to fall. What was once a bustling game mode full of action and adventure has eroded to merely a shell of its former glory. Today, I, Buster associate Joseph Biden, will boldly go where no man has gone before to uncover the lost secrets of DarkRP. In order to find the charm that was lost to us years ago, I'm going to turn back the clock by joining a server based in the Soviet Union. Upon connection to Wazer's roleplay with fast loading, I found myself in the green zone. Their VK link is in the description. Walking out of spawn, I found a youthful Soviet child, but I was drawn away by some electric Russian folk music coming from a local club. Unable to deny the melodious Soviet voice, I let myself in and began to look down. A well-dressed man, whom I assumed to be the owner of the establishment, beckoned me over to a big button that read "Do Not Push." Pressing the button caused the music to stop, and I was assaulted by the suited man. I took that as an international decree of expulsion, and quickly made my way out. Down the street, I discovered some interdimensional architecture that had warped into this realm, and I decided to check it out. I know not what entity or intelligence had assembled this construct, but I sought out their galactic knowledge. After having found nothing of value, and hearing a series of gunshots from the neighboring complex, I decided it was time to leave the Angel's Temple. Any successful character knows that in order to make it big, you gotta have a job. So that's just what I did. Navigating the Russian menus, I eventually made my way to the Jobs tab. Not being able to read any of the descriptions, I found one with a relatively high paycheck of $500. Selecting this job respawned me to the green zone, where I happened upon an interaction between the natives.
Человеку, подходи ко мне. Ты подходишь к человеку, типа, спрашиваешь, типа, верите в ли...
I continued the other way, and happened upon an advertisement for my main competitor, Bulk. As I committed some international espionage, I was approached by a man of God. I told him I didn't have a microphone, in order to avoid blowing my cover as a fellow Soviet role player. In an attempt to convert him to the truth of American Christianity, I swiftly pulled up Google Translate, so that I could give him the good news in his native tongue. My quick and deadly technological skills had been matched by only few, but by the time I prepared my sermon, the poor old man had already departed. I continued my expedition and discovered a statue of the symbol of Soviet communism, the crutch and cyclone. If I had any doubts that I was in the heart of danger, those thoughts were extinguished now. Again browsing the foreign menus, I discovered that I had become a salesman of tobacco, e-cigarettes, and water. The sound of a raging Russian engine attracted me around this corner, where I discovered a Soviet woman preparing for an attempt of a dangerous stunt. If she could pull this off, she might just be able to win the Cold War. She did it. Knowing I no longer would be safe in the city, I decided it was time for me to skip town and live out in the desert. I was stopped dead in my tracks when I noticed a strange being who seemed to be able to shift in and out of this dimension. Could this be the entity who had constructed the immaculate temple I had seen before? Seeing him move through the air with such deadly grace, I knew my survival was no longer guaranteed. Progressing through this tunnel, my head raced with thoughts of becoming a Sandman. Would I have to convert to the ways of Islam? What would God think of me for becoming a Muslim? Fortunately, my nightmare of a halal diet was stamped out when I discovered someone had planted grass in the desert. Exploring the local, no longer desert encampment, I found it to be abandoned. I quickly got bored and decided, fuck this noise, and wandered back into the city. It was as I was constructing my way in, known as prop climbing, a violation of the server rules, that another user was banned from the server for 20 minutes for non-RP plus free damage. It was at this point that I knew I had to tread with caution. After illegally immigrating back into the city and experiencing some server latency, I meandered around until I found what was, unbeknownst to me at the time, a bank. I wandered inside to find some sick-looking loot through a window. All the doors were left open. It was as I was trying to solve this foreign puzzle that I knew I was no longer in America. I was ultimately unable to crack the magician's code and unlock the secrets of this government treasure. Saddened by my lack of fortune, I left the bank. After I once again spotted the interdimensional entity while continuing down the back alleys, I found the old man from before. This time, he was with his twin brother, so I couldn't miss the opportunity to indoctrinate him with my American sermon. They seemed rather uninterested, so I decided to explore the subway from whence they came. I was startled when I saw a Soviet lady wielding a knife. She swiftly put it away and started walking towards me at an alarming pace. I started backing up and began to run away when I found out that I was trapped with no way out. But then the subway woman revealed herself to be a subway child, and my fear lessened, and I figured that he, too, could use some good news. I carefully snuck around him while he was distracted, and made my way back into the main city, ignoring his calls to me. It was after that interaction that I knew I had to watch my back. Once back on the main road, I spotted a couple Soviet men who were chasing the interdimensional entity, who I learned was named BMO. The men had seemingly siphoned power from this being and were using them to torment the entity, one man punching it into the stratosphere. The subway child from before apparently had the psychic keys required to unlock the temple, and on his way out greeted me again. Shortly after, he was lit ablaze by one of the entity's tormentors. It was at this point I knew it was no longer safe for me then, and I departed quickly. What is DarkRP without a base to store your stuff in? After once again passing by the mysterious entity, I decided to purchase a house. After buying all the doors and making sure the windows were secure, I began to furnish my home. While I was decorating, I heard someone jiggle my doorbell, so I went to check it out, but the jiggle was coming from inside the house. I discovered that my room was empty. Was my new home already haunted? Before I had the chance to consider that, I found one of the newly empowered Soviet men standing right behind me. As I exited, he warped into my bathroom. There he was, the sewer child from before, wearing a new flesh. What could he want with me and my new home?
Здравствуйте. Брался в дом.
As the Russian sewer kid inspected my bathroom, the floating man morphed into a text reading, Minecraft. Before I had time to fully process this, the young sewage boy pulled out his poop knife and stabbed me. It was at this point I knew, when in Russia, don't trust your house guests. On my way back home, I was distracted by a man playing extremely loud Russian hard bass. He had clearly ascended beyond our getting.
Мы с тобой снимаем порно, моя девочка 2D, Сакура, обними сильно, мы плывем как по воде, я так долго ждал, как...
As I was approaching my home, I saw the sewer child climbing out my window. He had put on his previous skin and showed me how he entered my home originally. Apparently, my windows were not as secure as I thought they were. Whilst trying to secure my house, another Soviet woman walked in through my front door, followed by an entity that assaulted me and then assaulted her. It then attacked the cruel sewer child who had invaded my home. While they were occupied, I began securing my windows using bookshelves. Upon completion of these shelves, the dastardly shit kid pulled out his poop knife and went to town on the interdimensional intelligence, killing it. And then killing me. On my way home, I was approached by an African-American combat medic named Dead Space, who tried to heal me with what sounded like a French accent of Russian. And it was at this point I knew anything was possible.
Куда пошел посмотреть на трон мэра? Зайди в мэр. Ой, в мэрию, и там
He
будет...
followed me all the way back to my home, even attempting to jump into my window. Luckily, my bookshelves were most effective.
Рядом был стул. Хочешь стул?
He was quite saddened that I rejected his healing powers and presented me a peace offering. A well-crafted wooden chair.
Стул, который ты оставил на
At
улице.
this point I knew friends could be found anywhere. I felt most triumphant after finishing decorating my home. A kitchen full of appliances, a TV room to kick back in, a bathroom complete with tub, toilet, sink, brush holder, and a secondary television. And a high-tech office that doubled as a low-tech bedroom. What more could a man ask for? Now that I had settled in, it was time to hit the streets to find out what went so horribly wrong with DarkRP. Upon stepping foot outside my house, I immediately noticed that interdimensional affairs were going south. The entities had brought in their big mama, so I decided to investigate. I was distracted by the sound of shit being thrown and saw a small Russian girl walking into the Soviet consulate, so I followed her. It was at this point I knew it's never too early to get involved in politics. As I waited to be admitted, an African-American amputee came and mumbled something in communist. I didn't know how to respond, but he did, and gave me a fury of fists that I'll never forget. I ran as fast as my legs could take me that day, but his reach was impeccable, hitting me without even touching me. As I ran down those streets, reality began to dissolve before my very eyes. Out of options, I jumped to safety over the railing into the water below. Little did I know, nowhere was safe. I ran into the sewers, and he got distracted by attacking another man. The perfect opportunity for me to put some distance between me and my assailant. It was at that point I knew the jig was up. I eventually lost my attacker. But it was at that point I knew I had also lost myself. Who knows what madness was unfolding on the surface. The biggest scoop was up there, but I was stuck down here. Minutes passed, then hours, then days, then weeks, months, years. How long had I been lost? The madness of the world cannot compare to the madness within the mind of a man who has lost his own. It was at that point I knew I had posted cringe in my own mind. After wandering in the sewers for about 10 minutes, I fell into a hole with water beneath me. I tried to jump down, but missed. I died. Fucking shitting me, dude. I was filled with a powerful rage, but before I could quit, some flying commie punk laughed at my pain. What man can say he truly knows the catalyst of the fall of Garry's mod DarkRP? Administration positions available for purchase, 3,000 plus jobs, hours of downloadable content, a growing tumor of a player base, furries? It is a mystery. DarkRP is the prodigal son who flew away and may never return.
Hey guys, this is a Buster Grep associate.